Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of the Lords of Consciousness videocast. I am your host, Clint Culberson, and before we start the show, today's episode is being brought to you by, you can see it on my T-shirt, Organic Galaxy. My buddy Tobias, he's runs this amazing mushroom farm out of Cincinnati, Ohio, and go to organicgalaxy.com. He's selling these lion mane mushroom kits, so you can grow your own lion's mane, and there's so many benefits to lion's mane. It enhances your brain functions. It can protect against cancer, reduce inflammation. It's kind of one of those miracle foods. So check it out for $25. Grow your own lion's mane. I'm really excited about today's guest. Max-igan is my guest. He's one of my favorite guys out there, and I listened to his weekly podcast, in a sense, his videos that he puts out on his YouTube channel at the-crowhouse. He's also an author and a lecturer, and each week I get to listen to his videos, and it's like, to me, it's like going to church. You know, I get my 55 minutes, or usually like in the 50-minute range, and Max, you just have the most amazing perspective on what's going on in the world. You're an idealist, but also more than anything, a true realist. And you get super real. And I really appreciate you jumping on with me. It's really an honor to have you here, man.
Pleasure to be here, brother. Pleasure to come and have a chat to you.
Yeah, thank you, man. I wanted to I wanted to start off. I was just having this really great conversation with some of my best friends in the whole world, and I wanted to kind of bring you in on it. So I'll just give me a second. I'll catch you up to date on what we were talking about, but. You know, humanity is going through an evolution, and you know we're going through this waking up phase. And you know, I know you and Mark Passio had an interview, a real amazing interview about, you know, hey Mark, you know, you asked him how awake are we, and you know you guys kind of both agreed that, hey man, we're not nearly, there's not this mass awakening that we thought there was going on, but yes, nonetheless there is progress, there's movement forward. And, you know, what I wanted to ask you is humanity evolving at the pace that, you know, are we doing the best we can with the tools that we have, you know, or are we leaving a lot of room on the table, you know, or a lot of people just playing into voluntary ignorance, and they could have the choice to change their lives, but they just don't? Or is it literally they're doing the best they can in their own spiritual progress?
Look, in many ways, I think both are correct. You know, people are doing the best they can in their own spiritual progress, but they're scared. You know, the cognitive dissonance that most people have is out of fear. You know, people are literally scared to stand up for themselves. You know, they know something's terribly wrong, but they want to see someone else doing it first before they're game to actually put their face out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they just kind of want to see the consensus to change, and then they'll go with the flow. And that's okay. You know, a lot of people are going to be like that. That's the way people have traditionally been. You know, a lot of people are just sort of filler material in some way. And people will just go where the general consensus goes, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And even, you know, people's lack of involvement, their tolerance of wrong behavior, as Mark always puts it, this is the result of programming. It's the result of fear. You can't really blame them for it. You know, I feel pretty sorry for the human race, the way we've been led into this predicament, and the fact that it seems so insurmountable to people when it's really not. You know, the problem is people are looking for external solutions all the time when the solution is within them. You know, change your perspective, change the way you interact with people, stop tolerating wrong behavior, always operate within the parameters of your moral compass, and you'll change the world. That's how it works, you know. You know, it's a ripple effect. If we didn't tolerate all this stuff, it wouldn't happen, you know. If some legislation is put in place which causes us to step outside our moral compass, we just do it. We think, well, I have to, it's the law. Well, hang on, it's not law, it's legislation that someone's written there, which is actually in direct opposition to real law, to natural law. So what's it even doing there? You know, we don't question it, we don't vet it, we just go along with it because we're scared to think outside the box. We're scared of what will happen to us if we question it, you know. And when we do question it, we use the legal parameters. We don't ever look inside our spiritual reality and look to who we are in our own personal power and simply ask the questions of why another human being thinks they have control over you. You know, this is slavery. You know, slavery is illegal. Why do we put up with this shit? Why do we Why do we allow ourselves to let the world just deteriorate around us simply because someone wrote down on paper that they can do this? How do we ever let that happen? That's the question, but you can't blame a lot of people. You have to just try to inspire them to be better in themselves. If they can be better in themselves and always work to improve things around them and not tolerate wrong behavior, then they will change the world. That's all we really need to do. And that's why it's no good someone even coming along and bringing another system to these people. That's the problem as well, is people, if you say to them, well, this system's corrupt, they go, okay, well, what's your new system that you want to put in place? And then I realize that it's just another system they're looking for. There's nothing inherently wrong with this system. What is wrong with it is our moral stance and our tolerance of what this system does. The system's supposed to be there to serve us, but it isn't. It's enslaving us. And we've become the least important thing in the eyes of the system. It's all about economics and balancing the books and all that sort of stuff. So, we've got to look at this and look at that whole thing and realize that it's our spiritual connection that is the problem. And if we change our moral compass, then we don't have to change anything else. And it doesn't matter what system anybody brings in. If you haven't changed what's inside you, you're just going to be led back to this point. You're just following another leader. You still have to pay to be alive. All this stuff's still going on, So that's the solution. The solution is for people to change what's inside them and let it ripple out. And that's why I live my life. And I live almost a charmed existence because I live my life in a state of giving. But I don't deplete myself in the process. I give to myself as well. I put myself on equal value as everybody else, but we don't do that. We just tolerate all this stuff. And so that's why it continues. If we were to change our moral compass, the system would have to change around us. We wouldn't have to change anything.
One of the groups in the human population that seems to be attacked significantly are men. And these criminal elite have consciously gone after each gender and every race and everyone to divide us and to make us more docile. And I wanted to kind of ask you, as a man in this community, this greater community that we're all involved in, the people who are really seeking the truth, whether we're conscious of it or not. Speak to the men and boys out there listening right to this right now, and tell them, what does a man of integrity look like? Because there aren't that many examples out there sometimes, and people are often feel alone and unknowing of even what this looks like. Mark Passio says men are a bunch of chicken shit cowards. He's famous for saying that, and he's pretty harsh about it, but it's a real thing. And can you kind of just go over what programming we've experienced and how can we get out of it?
Well, a lot of program. That's a huge question. It's a huge topic. Like the whole concept of the patriarchal society that we live in. It's not really patriarchal. It's psychopathic. Sure, it's run by men, but the men are psychopaths. It isn't. It's patriarchal. This is paternal. There's nothing fatherly or paternal about this system. It's not patriarchal at all. It's psychopathic. And through the oppression of women that we've seen over the years, through the dark ages and what's happened, women have been really squashed. And so there's been this revival to give women back their power, to bring back the divine feminine. But in the process, there's been a suppressing of the divine masculine. People don't realize that the divinity exists on both sides. And it's the loss of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Men have been taught to get in touch with their femininity, to get in touch with their feminine side. And really, you've just turned them all into a bunch of little wimps and a bunch of pussies, a bunch of people who won't stand up for themselves, the loss of the alpha male. And the alpha male is important. You need the warrior. You need those people to protect society. You need strong figures who will stand up and protect their families. We've been told that, we can't do that. And everything's been blamed on the males. But it's the males that have gone out and built the world. We've built everything that everybody's using. It's all been built by men that have gone out there and slaved and worked their fingers to the bone to provide some sort of an existence for their families. But if they don't get, all the latest iPad and they can't afford all the latest things and all the latest mod cons, and they get thrown away and they get told they're not looking after their family properly. It's a program. The whole thing's a program. It's the suppression of the divinity in both sexes. And women in the rise of the feminist movement and all this sort of stuff, women are being taught that they have to turn into men, basically, if they want to be successful. The feminist movement is basically female chauvinism. The way to combat male chauvinism is with female chauvinism. This doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous. We need to reconnect and see the value of each gender. We are both valuable and we both need each other. The women need the strong support of the men. They need the men to build the houses for them and to provide some sort of security for them. But the men need the nurturing environment that the women can provide for them.
Mm-hmm.
They need the support of the woman, the love of the woman. Men can't function without this. And we don't get that. We don't get any of this. It's all become superficial. It's all about the social standards and all that sort of thing. And men now, they feel like if they don't have money, if they're not financially stable, then they're worth nothing. In places like Ukraine, you've got young men that can't even talk to young women because the young women don't want to know them because they don't have any money. They just want to hang out with money because money is the most sought after commodity. Money is success. Money is what it's all about. And it's disgusting. And most of these men who have really got lots of money are sociopaths and criminals and psychopaths anyway. So what sort of an image are they putting into the female mind? It's just this snowballing thing that happens, But men have been brutalized. They really have by this society. And it's been a very, very concerted effort. Even now with the whole transgender movement and all this sort of stuff is happening, is a further, it's not usually women who want to turn into men, it's men who want to turn into women. Why is this? And this is all the result of biological altering. That's what's going on with the plastics and the phthalates and even the fact that people eat chicken all the time. Chicken's been promoted as a really popular food. And when you're going out and buying chicken and eating chicken, you're not eating a hen, you're eating a chicken. It's a chicken that's been pumped full of hormones, so now it's the size of a hen, but it's only really a few weeks old. It's still one of those little yellow fluffy chickens, and it's filled full of estrogen and female hormones to get really big, and everyone's eating it. So they're all eating female hormones. Everybody's eating female hormones. Everyone's eating estrogen, plastics full of estrogen. And so it's been a concerted effort to do this, to remove the masculinity from men, because that way there'll be nobody to defend society. There'll be nobody to stand up against the government. People will just be these little drones who do what they're told, too scared to ever stand up for themselves. And being told that if they express any of the attributes of being a strong man, or they're a chauvinist, they're this, they're that, they're a racist, whatever. You notice how even with the anti-white movement that's going on at the moment, there's comments that all white people are racist. And so many attacks against white people at the moment, but it's not seen as racist to attack white people. It's racist to speak out against anybody else except white people, most specifically white men. So this is an ongoing trend, and you can see, it's Western culture. No matter how much you don't like it, and there's a lot of bad things about Western culture, but it's Western culture that's brought us technology. It's brought us all this stuff that everybody uses. And now they have to squash that culture so it won't produce anymore. They don't want anyone having any new ideas. They don't want anyone thinking outside the box. And we've got the control grid just going where we need it. So now it's time to homogenize everybody. And that's basically what they're doing. You can't do that without the destruction of the male.
How, in your lifetime, how have you seen the family attacked?
Oh, the family's been obliterated through my lifetime. I mean, it started even when I was a child, with the introduction of television. I remember that when we first got our television and suddenly we weren't playing with our parents anymore. Suddenly my parents weren't doing much except sitting and watching this box in the afternoon. And, the parents were replaced by television. And, once you replace the parents and you start raising the cost of living, so you get to a point where both parents have to be working, then you disconnect the children from their parents. The children get into the education system, they get programmed by that. And, we lose that loving, nurturing environment, that nurturing family environment that we had, through the introduction of television and through the introduction of all these digital mediums to replace the things that we normally do as a society, as human beings, we've had so many things happen to replace us, to replace our parents, to replace real education and to replace friendships, real eye contact with people. Now it's all texting and all this sort of stuff. So all of this stuff serves to break down people's connection to other people. Like 10% of communication is nonverbal. I mean, 90% of communication is nonverbal. Only 10% of it is verbal. So it's to do with how someone looks and the way they're holding themselves and the tone of their voice and the look in their eye and all sorts of things when you communicate to people.
Mm-hmm.
When it's just texting, you lose all that. You take everything at face value. You take everything too seriously, and we've been brutalized as far as the family unit goes. And the breakdown of the family unit is integral to mind control. It's integral to the system, because in breaking down the unit, you remove that nurturing environment, that people's need for attention from their parents, their need to be loved, their need to belong to something. That you take that away from them, and they don't even know you've taken it from them. They're just born into this world. They're plonked in front of a television, given an iPad, and away they go. And then they grow up seeking attention, seeking instant gratification, wanting to be listened to, wanting to put their face out there on Snapchat or Instagram or whatever. Now, it's all about seeking attention. Me, 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 me. Why? Because they never got that from their parents. And so it becomes all completely superficial. So no one's really prepared to listen to anybody else, unless it's some idea they can steal from them to promote themselves so they get the attention, because they want the attention, because they didn't have it. And, we can say, oh, this is bad, Generation X, just an attention-seeking generation, but they've been programmed to be that way. They've been trained to be that way, manipulated to be that way. Of course they're that way, because they have to be, because of what's been done to them. But they don't even know that's what they're looking for, because they don't know what's been taken from them. I said in the last show, I was saying it's like if you could only see in black and white, and you didn't know that there was color in the world, you wouldn't ever know what you were missing. You would never know, because you have no reference point. Now, the kids have no reference point for what it is like to be a real human, what it is like to live in a nurturing, loving environment.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't know what they're missing. They don't know what's been stolen from them. They don't know how this technology they've been given is virtual. It's not real, and it's replacing what is real in the world. And this all leads to this point. It's all been done very, very deliberately and by design. And you can't look at this and say, oh, this is just, maybe we didn't know it was going to lead this way. Of course they knew it was going to lead this way. It all follows the same agenda. It always does. It all leads to further control, the further removing of people's cognitive function, the further need for the nanny state. People need to be told how to do anything because they can't think for themselves anymore. And all of this is designed to prevent them being able to think for themselves. You create this schism in them right from the early age through the breakdown of the family unit, and that disconnects them right from the beginning. So they spend their lives searching for something and they don't even know what it is.
So what responsibility do the older generations have in helping informing the younger generations of maybe what they don't know? Like you said, I mean, maybe the older generations did get to experience what healthy families look like, at least some models of it, or some, there's been good things that have been taken from our societies. And what responsibility do the older generation hold?
Oh, we hold a pretty huge responsibility, in as much as we're the ones who let it happen, or our parents are the ones who let it happen. Like even in my age, I wasn't responsible. It was already happening when I was born into it. I was able to see it, and I was able to live my life kind of on the outside of it and see it all happening. And I tried to wake people up to it. And even now, at the older generation, you try to tell the kids about this sort of stuff, and they went, listen, the best thing to do is to lead by example. Show them that there's a better world.
Yeah.
Show them there's a better life. Show them that there's actually stuff outside. You don't have to be on your iPad all the time. Teach them how to communicate with people. Teach them about the importance of communication. Always love them. Always be there for them. Always be there to support them. Don't throw your kids out of home as soon as they're old enough to work and go and create an income the way we do in the West. This sort of thing, the separation that exists now between the younger generation and the older generation, it's almost impossible to tell the kids what's going on. We have to somehow take steps to stop our governments going in the direction that we're going, and we have to lead by example in what we are doing. That's really the only way we're going to reach them, I think. You can't tell them. They won't listen. They have to see it for themselves.
Yeah.
And the whole exaltation of youth, and you could see this back in the 60s as well, the way the generation gap, and even pop music, bands like The Who, I hope I die before I get old, all this sort of stuff, my generation, all this sort of stuff. The generation gap. There was never a generation gap. This was a psychological operation that was planned to create a gap between the generations, to stop children listening to their parents. Oh yeah, the old fuddy-duddies, the wrinkles, they don't really know what's going on. We got all the new tech, we got all the new stuff. The old folks don't know. We're young, we know what's going on, and it's all about being young and beautiful. You know, all the TV shows, everything. How many TV shows do you see? They're all young and beautiful. Even if there's an old person on there, they're just an incidental old person that comes in to make a little wise saying now and then. You know, it's all young and beautiful. It's all the exaltation of youth, which is designed to separate people from their parents, to make their parents seem irrelevant. You know, and the more tech you bring in, you know, you bring in more mobile phones and smartphones and this and that, and the parents don't know how to operate them. And so the kids look at their parents as if, oh, you're stupid. The folks don't know anything. It's all design. It's all been done by design. So it's very difficult to even get the kids to want to pay attention to what the parents are saying. Even if the parents want to call a bit of a family meeting or have a Sunday dinner where we all sit around the table and talk, the kids still can't wait to just get away, run off with their friends and post their latest pictures on Snapchat.
What do you have a video camera in my house? Jeez, man.
Yeah, you know.
We have teenagers, so yes.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, you know. That's the thing, you know. So it's very difficult to reach them. You've got to try to lead by example in what you do. And people of our generation, especially my generation, I mean, they're waiting for people like me to die off. You know, because that's why they don't harass too much. They just wait. We'll go away in a few years. We won't be here. So then it comes down to the younger people, and the more the next generation, they kind of have less of a connection to what it once was. They've got less of a reference point. Like you'd have less of a reference point than me, because it's become less free as the situation goes, as time goes on, it becomes less and less free. So the kids that are born now and the kids that are starting school now, when they leave school in another 10 or 15 years, they are going to have absolutely no reference point for what freedom could possibly have looked like. They're not going to know what a world that wasn't digital even was, you know. So that's the situation that we've got. That's why it's important for people to, you know, people of my age, people of your age, people who are active in this movement, trying to wake the world up, to be actually active as well in the real world, and be getting out there and sending letters to their government, going to these public meetings and standing up and saying things and questioning these people in the right way. You know, things like the Empower movement. I can't stress this enough. What they've done with the liability action they're doing against smart meters is working. You know, and this is something that empowers people. You know, they actually stopped smart meters in Hawaii with that movement, with the liability notice. So, and this can be used for everything. You know, if you're going to cause harm to me, then you're going to be liable for that harm, because that's all governments do, is cause harm. And if we approach them in that way and ask them why they are so intent on causing harm, they have no way to answer these questions. You just got to ask the right questions in a public enough way. And people might say, oh, well, you're questioning politicians. That's not going to get anywhere. But I guarantee, if you go to a public meeting where the Prime Minister or the President or someone is there, and if you get a chance, even just 1 minute or 30 seconds to just get up and ask the right question in an eloquent enough way, you know, like as to why they are causing harm with their actions and why all their actions do cause harm, you know, this wakes people up. It plants that little seed in their minds, and they start thinking about government a little bit differently. You know, like I don't expect to get any results from going and asking these questions to politicians, except maybe getting thrown out of the room. But still, it wakes everybody in the room up. Yeah. And then they go home and they go, hang on, what that guy said, that made a lot of sense. Why didn't that politician answer the question? Why did they get thrown out? You know, so it plants that seed in their minds, you know. And if you're always doing it from the correct moral perspective, you're not there to attack anybody. You're simply pointing out the obvious and asking, well, hang on, why are we tolerating this? Is this what we employ you to do? Can you explain to me why you shouldn't be held in abuse of the office that you hold? Because every legislation that you're enacting is causing harm to the population. You know, how is this what we employ government to do? And how is this serving our society in any way? You know, please explain it to me. Because as far as I can see, you should be removed from office and charged with abuse of office, you know. So you just say that, and people are going to go, well, actually, yeah, what he said is right, you know. And it's not a matter of finding a way around it and putting a Band-Aid on it. It's a matter of identifying the fact that the legislation you wrote is causing harm, and you need to be held accountable. We're not after any appeasement or any petitions or any revamping of the legislation. You've committed a crime. You've committed a crime, and you're going to be charged for it. You're going to be removed from office. You're going to be held in abusive office, and you're going to be put in a jail somewhere. And if you're not, then there is no law. And you've just shown us that there is no law. There's only one law for the politicians and another for the people, and that's not what we employ you to do. You say something like that, and they have nowhere to go. You get up and say that in front of enough people, say that in front of a rally of 2,000 or 3,000 people, and you're going to, at least half of them are going to have a little penny drop in their mind. Those sorts of things make a difference, So Get active. Don't just be on YouTube. Get active. I mean, I travel the world. I do everything I can. I meet as many people as I can. I go to every rally that I can. I do everything I can to try to make a difference and to plant that seed in people's minds, to lead by example in what I do, and that helps. I mean, that's what we can do. We can all make a difference, but we've got to get involved. Mm-hmm. Don't just sit back and wait for the newsletter.
Max, what does effective civil disobedience mean to you? What does that look like?
Oh, everything I just said, basically.
Yeah.
That is effective civil disobedience. I mean, civil disobedience, sometimes, you might get yourself in trouble. Just going out there and breaking the law, you may get yourself in trouble. But if you go and question the law in the right way, that is effective civil disobedience. Everything I was just saying. I mean, I'm being disobedient in as much as I'm simply not complying with your corruption and your willingness to cause harm on people. I'm identifying the problem where it's starting. And if the problem is beginning with the politicians, then we need to identify that fact. Otherwise, we will have nothing improve in this society. Civil disobedience in as much as I will not comply with anything that causes me to step outside my moral compass, and I will question the actions of the politician that is requesting that I do that. And if everybody did that, we change the world in a day.
I mean, if everyone understood what was really going on, though, even to the extent of the human trafficking, the pedophilia rings, if everyone could really come into that awareness, don't you think then the definition of civil disobedience would be literally we would tear the gears of the machine down tomorrow? I mean, it seems like people would finally wake up to the fact that we're the 99% and we could literally, they don't got enough bullets to kill us all kind of thing.
Well, yeah, quite possibly. But trying to wake people up to that. See, the whole fake news meme, that's right. What they brought that out for. That's why the Pizzagate, the whole focus on the pizza store and all that was to put that fake news meme out there. I remember trying to tell people, don't focus on the pizza store. We've got a great opportunity here, but you're all shifting your attention to the pizza store, which is going to lead about a whole vilification of the independent media, which is exactly what happened. But
people would have every right to march into these people's offices, and I mean, they would have every right to do that. But do you think that right now?
But what are they going to do? What are they going to do if they do that, though? I mean, who's going to prosecute them? Because everybody's compromised. All the judges are compromised. That's the problem. Even all this stuff they're talking about now with mass arrests and QAnon and all this rubbish. I mean, how many years have we been hearing this? They were saying the same thing back in 2015. There were going to be mass arrests. They've been saying this for years. Non-compliance, if we all took a day off, I've been suggesting that just everyone stay home. Just stay home and don't spend any money. Do that for a week and you'll change the whole world. Like even do it for a day. If you did it for a day, non-compliance day, 15th of every month, I've been trying to push it. But if everyone just refused to spend money, it'd send a shockwave around the planet. It really would. Everyone would just go, oh my God, the people are actually woken up. They're actually doing something. That would help. But
Max, we
don't really want to pull down the machine. We don't want to just go and rip the whole system down, because too many people would suffer. Right. And if we change our moral compass, we don't have to pull the system down. Like Occupy Wall Street. We don't need to occupy Wall Street. We need to occupy, because we already occupy the entire earth. We just don't occupy ourselves.
Yeah.
Know who and what you are and stop complying with anything that causes you to step outside your moral compass. That is the greatest form of protest, the greatest form of activism, the greatest form of civil disobedience that you can perform. It is the most life-changing, world-changing thing that anybody can do.
Mm-hmm.
And if everybody did it, we would literally change the world in a day. You imagine if everybody actually did the right thing, didn't step outside their moral compass, didn't just cut corners because it improved corporate profit. Imagine what it would be like. And when people saw people doing that, if they just didn't tolerate it, they didn't buy those products, or they didn't, just didn't go along with it, the whole world would change. They couldn't get away with any of the stuff they do. It's like, what if they threw a war and nobody came? What do you want me to go and shoot people from another country that I've never met because you're having some beef with the world leader? If Donald Trump's got a problem with Kim Jong-un, we'll put them both in a boxing ring and they can work it out. If they want to have a war, great. You go and bomb Washington and you go and bomb the capital of North Korea, but leave the rest of the country out of it. How come you go and carpet bomb the rest of the country but leave the government buildings still standing? The whole thing's a scam. So stop complying with all this stuff. Stop going and killing people because other people tell you to do it.
So Max, do you not see the possibility that even within the system, that there are people doing what you just said within the FBI or within the CIA or within the military who didn't necessarily, throw their badge down and quit, but decided, hey, I'm going to do my best to uphold integrity within this system as it is, and which would then give credence to the possibility that there is some sort of white hat movement going on, that there is some resistance or some silent coup that's that's putting pressure on this corruption.
Well, look, there is to a degree. I'm certain there are people in there that feel that way. But again, who is going to stand up? Who's going to put their face out there from within the system? If they haven't got the support of the people of the world. And look at the people of the world. Look at the activist movement. They can't agree on anything. Everyone's got their own agenda. Everyone's trying to promote their own product. Nobody's trying to unite. Nobody will unite their fan bases or unite agree to disagree on anything. I've gone and met as many people in the independent media as possible, as many of the large names as I can as possible, in an attempt to create some unity, just so that the fan bases consider, hey, we're all on the same side. We're all trying to, create some sort of a groundswell. But it's almost impossible. People just have their own agendas. So, how is anybody within the system who might be a white hat in the FBI or whatever, how are they going to stand up when they're not going to have the support of the people, because everyone's going to be disagreeing with everybody else? Someone's going to say, oh, this guy's a shill. That's all it takes, is for someone to say, this guy's a shill, offer no proof whatsoever. I have people comment on my threads, this guy's a gatekeeper. They offer nothing to show that I'm a gatekeeper. And how am I a gatekeeper? Because I don't talk about what they think I should talk about, whatever their belief system is. So if you keep an open mind, you're a gatekeeper. If you make any sort of a difference at all, you're a gatekeeper, you're a shill. If you get any type of following at all, he must be a shill because people are listening to him. So this is the state of the independent media. So how are you going to have anyone in there stand up when they've got this complete schmozzle, this just mudfest behind them? Not going to have the support of the people in doing it. They'll put their heads up and they'll get their heads chopped off. So sure, there might be a white hat movement in there to some degree, but I'm not seeing anything really change on the ground. I'm not seeing anything really moving in the direction it should be. All these talk of mass arrests and all this sort of stuff, the human trafficking is still going on, the wars are still going on, the chemtrails are still being sprayed in the sky, the smart grid is still rolling out at frightening speed. None of this is being addressed. So I think a lot of it is theatre, and I think a lot of it is to keep people waiting. I mean, if you're going to be a good person and you want to make a change, you're not going to be working in the FBI or the CIA to begin with. That's the problem. If we were seeing a real change, we'd see these organizations dismantling themselves and walking away. We'd see people throwing their cell phones in dumpsters by the millions. We'd see people walking away from the system. We'd see police and military quitting their jobs. If we saw any type of awakening. If Trump's going to save America and do the right thing, like everybody says, and playing 4D chess, like he says, he wouldn't be talking about moving the embassy to Jerusalem. He wouldn't be talking about removing funding from the Palestinian people. He wouldn't be staging these ridiculous war theatrics towards North Korea, this little podunk country that's never going to attack anybody because it isn't big enough to. And as if China's going to let this country on its borders go to world war with America anyway. I mean, come on, folks. Trump's doing all this stuff. You think he's your friend? Rubbish. Trump's a second-rate businessman who never really got to be the tycoon he wanted to be. He's a bit of a joke, really. And so he's got this big gig as president. I don't care what anyone says about me for saying that. You know, Trump is kind of a second-level sort of a guy. Mm-hmm. He might be a billionaire or whatever, but he's kind of the second-level guy who's just doing what they want him to do. And he's a politician and he's a player. Otherwise, he wouldn't have the gig. You know, and it's as simple as that. Just look at his actions. Look at what he's doing. He's been in there a year now. I'm not seeing anything change. It's just gotten worse. So don't tell me that he's in there for the people, the battling underdog. It's theater for the masses.
What do you make of all of these CEO resignations, and even, you know, the multiplicitous amounts of congressmen and senators in the United States, at least, that are saying they're not running anymore? I mean, could that potentially be a sign of something going on? You know, that these guys are saying something.
Well, things are about to change. Things are really changing. Like I will admit that order that he's just put out, saying that all funding from human trafficking and all that sort of stuff, all wealth from human rights abuse is that's good. That's great. But you've got to do all that to bring in this new system. You know, you've got to be. Even if they do that, and even if like the Clinton Foundation and DynCorp and all these people are put down and shut out and blocked out of business and arrested and all this sort of stuff, you know, it'll look like, wow, we've just done all this great stuff. They're just scapegoats. They'll hang them out to dry. Will any of them even go to jail? How will you know? They'll probably go and live in the Caribbean somewhere. How do you know what happens to them? You know, when they get arrested and we have all these theatrical court cases on TV, it doesn't matter. Underneath all that, everyone will go, oh, wow, this is great. Isn't it unreal? You know, and they'll probably even bring in a debt jubilee and bring in the cryptocurrency and make the blockchain the new global currency or whatever. And we'll all get our $200 to pass go and all sorts of stuff. And everyone will go, wow, isn't this wonderful? And then underneath it is the smart grid. Above it is the chemtrails, is everything that is still going on. Nothing is changing. You know, we're being led into this situation where they'll do something like that probably to appease everybody and make it look like we've all been saved. And we're just being sheepled into a new corral, just being sheepled into a new system. You know, there's no freedom of expression in there. It's actually less freedom of expression. The more digital we go and the more smart we go, the less human we become. So this is all still going on. It wouldn't surprise me if they do stage some big theatrical thing to throw the truth movement a bone. But underneath it, look what's happening underneath it. See if anything's really changing in your life. See if anything's actually changing.
So I suppose strategically, from our perspective, you know, the people in our greater community all around the world, how can we strategically take advantage of this situation the most? If they are going to throw us a bone, and we also realize, hey, man, this could just be one asshole being replaced by another asshole, maybe of a different degree, but they're still trying to control us, right? So how can we strategically, you know, if they're going to throw us a bone, how do we make that bone turn into something that's where they can't control us? I mean, how do we? I mean, I suppose it's in our everyday lives we try to withdraw from the system no matter what, become more self-sustainable as humanly possible. You know, come together within our communities, and whatever happens on a global level, we're there's a buffer zone because of that sustainability. How do you see it?
Well, you know, if this happens and there are mass arrests and all this theatre's put on, we run with it. We say, well, this is great. We're no longer tolerating wrong behavior. And we push it further and we stand in that. And we say, okay, well, now we are free, and we act that way. You know, there's nothing they can do against that if people do that. You know, hang on, you can't stop me doing this. We just made this, you know, new reality where we don't tolerate wrong behavior anymore. So if you're going to come along with me as government, you know, and cause harm, well, I'm going to do the same to you as what you just did to the Clinton Foundation, you know, because what you're doing is basically human rights abuse, you know, because you're causing harm. So therefore, this new executive order can be used against you as well, can be used against Trump, can be used against any action government takes which is causing harm. So we run with it. We believe it. Okay, great. You've done it. Now we're free. Let's be free. You know, don't just say, oh, gee, that's great. Now we'll be led this way. No, we run with it. We put it straight in their face and say, good on you. We're going to go with this. Thank you very much for coming. And if you don't like it, you can go as well. That's the way we do it. Have the confidence to do that. Have the the spirit to do that. Embrace the warrior spirit, folks. Get back to your divinity. Whether you're male or female, get back to your divinity and stand in it. And there's nothing they can do.
Beautiful. I love that. Thank you for saying that, Max. I mean, it is. I mean, I really think the events taking place in the world are really forcing us to find the inner warrior within. To really, where do you stand, man? You can't just pretend like you don't know what's going on anymore. It's like 9/11. If you are not going to look at both sides of the argument, and you're just going to pretend like that there's not another side to it, then you're going to be forced into a shit or get off the pot moment. If you ask me, in the future, it's going to come to that. You're going to have to look at all this stuff.
Yeah, what we've got to do is run with it. And it's the danger is that people will see it and they'll go, "Oh wow, that's great. We've all been saved," and they'll sit back to watch what happens next.
Yeah,
they've got to embrace that moment. When that moment happens, and yes, we're all saved. Okay, now we're free. Stand up right then and run with it, because they won't expect people to do that. They'll expect people to sigh this big, huge sigh of relief and then go back to their television. But we don't have to do that. We can actually we can pull their bluff, and we can run with their bluff, and they won't be able to combat that at all if we do that.
Yeah, and I suppose that kind of beckons the question. I mean, if tomorrow the Rothschilds, we saw them, brought away in handcuffs, or I don't know, something pretty definitive that their power was going to be reduced, within the truther community, like, where does our focus go after that? If we do get these mass arrests, where does the truther community, I mean, the people that are involved, like guys like you, Max, David Ikes, I mean, do we keep continually talking about the atrocities that have been done, or does the focus change now to something, forward thinking?
Well, the focus, I mean, I only ever point out the atrocities and the things people have done to try to, explain to people that the world is run by criminals. Here's the evidence.
I think it's necessary right now, for sure.
Well, it is, but what we need to do is maintain our focus on the bigger picture, which is where it should have been all the time. This is why I keep saying there's no good pointing the finger at people. You can point the finger at the Rothschilds or the Freemasons or the Jesuits or the Jews or whatever. I mean, I make a lot of noise against Israel because of what they're doing to the Palestinian people and the fact that they're in control of so many governments and they're helping with a lot of this. But again, they're not the real problem. The problem is our lack of moral compass. So, and our unwillingness to look at the bigger picture, because all these things are put there to give us something to fight about. The situation between Israel and Palestine has been going on since I was a kid. Gaza, it's been in the news since I was 5 years old. So, this could have been rectified years ago. It isn't rectified just to keep us focusing on it and trying to heal it when it can't be healed. It's the same as the chemtrails. You keep focused on it, they can't be healed until you deal with the corruption itself, the inherent problems and the smart grid and everything that's happening underneath it, which is where the focus should be. And until that stops, then the focus should remain there. Even if, the Rothschilds are all let out in handcuffs and Hillary Clinton's taken to The Hague and whatever, look around you. What's changing? Okay, now this is done. Has anything changed? Nothing has changed. So, don't sit back and think, oh, gee, that's great. All the corrupt people have been arrested. No, they haven't. A few scapegoats have been hung out to dry to make you kick back for a little while and lose focus on the bigger picture, which is where it should have been all along. The smart grid and the underlying direction that humanity is being led never changes. Doesn't matter who's in power, which government gets in, which countries come, which governments come and fall and go and whatever. We're all moving in the same direction. And that is what needs to be addressed. That's where the focus needs to be. Maintaining human creative potential and human ability for freedom of expression. This is where the focus needs to be. Anything that is removing that is not your friend. And anything that is removing that, is subtly removing these little things for you, and you're giving all these other things to focus on, pay attention. Pay attention to what's happening below the surface, because all of this stuff is a theater. It's all play. With the amount of wakefulness in the world, the amount of people that know there's something terribly wrong, you'd have to do something like this, have this big QAnon thing and this executive order and whatever. And like I said, even if people are arrested for human rights abuses and whatever, keep a focus on the smart grid, keep a focus on what's happening underneath, and don't allow yourself to be led. Always maintain your sovereignty, if that's the right word. Your uniqueness, your freedom. your freedom as a living expression of creation that you are. Don't ever give that up.
Max, put on your ultra optimistic hat. Like, what is if everything just went absolutely to the max perfect in terms of, shutting down this cabal, and then bringing in the golden age, which I think so many of us can see and feel. I mean, especially if you've tapped into entheogenic plants. Many of us are getting visions of what that could even look like. What is the true potential of humanity? I mean, if putting on that optimistic hat, how quickly could we actually get to that point? I mean, could we actually rid this planet of corruption, and help almost retrain everyone in a sense over the next 10 years? I mean, could 10 years from now we actually be living in a no more poverty? No, the earth is really in a much better place. We've cleaned up the messes, and how quickly could it happen?
It could happen pretty quickly. I mean, it could happen overnight if people were to change their moral compass, but of course that's not going to happen. But even if we were to arrest everybody and get everything happening and get the system, functioning in a state where it serves mankind, if we all run with it, as I said, we have a real opportunity to really turn this back on them and put it back in their face and just run with this so-called freedom that they're pretending to give us. We accept it as freedom and we believe we are free and we just go from there. We could be living in a very different world in 10 years, but again, it's going to take at least 3 generations to re-educate people, to retrain people back into having life skills. I mean, you think about even now, the people that are teaching the kids in school, a lot of these teachers don't have real life skills because they were never taught them, because we're a few generations down now from where this big schism happened. So it's going to take at least 3 generations to educate people back to a point where they're able to govern themselves and they're able to see their own worth. I mean, you might do it quicker. You might get a lot of people come through in 1 generation and you'll see massive changes. But it's going to take at least 2 or 3, realistically, to get people back to a point where they are capable of self-governance and capable of really understanding what a moral compass is. Even people who want anarchy and want voluntarism and all this sort of stuff, that's all very well. But if the world was to simply, we were to pull this system down and was to erupt into a voluntarist society now, most of the people wouldn't survive because they simply don't have the life skills to survive. Kids coming out of college now that don't have the intellectual capability to know how to use a tape measure. They know how to use all the latest apps, but they can't use a tape measure. They can't find their way around their own city without a GPS. They can't find their way anywhere or do anything without an instruction manual. So, people have had their cognitive function lowered. Just their ability to think is being taken away from people, which is what all these conveniences do. They remove your ability to think about anything. Turn you into a little drone, turn left here, turn right there, do what the GPS says. Don't think about anything. So, in that sort of a situation, where everybody is so dependent upon technology, and technology has replaced their real interactive life skills. It's now this little world that they use as a medium, as an interface to interact with the world. Now they have to get them back. So, realistically, 3 generations. But we could see some change in 10 years. We could see some change in 1 year if everyone was to really stand up and call things. We could see change very, very quickly. It's whether people are willing to do it. And again, most people are scared, cognitive dissonance. They don't want to be the one. They know something's terribly wrong. They want it to change. They want to stand up, but you first, and then I'll stand up behind you and I'll hold your coat while you speak for me. It's not going to work. I mean, I've had people rally around me to do that. And then they've realized, well, hang on, what are we doing? Come on, Max, lead us. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? I'm out here talking. I'm leading myself. I can't lead you. Only you can lead you. If you want me to lead you, you're missing the point completely. That's the point, is that I'm a nobody. I'm just this guitar player. I'm not anything. I don't even have a proper education. I left school in the 3rd year of high school. I never went past there. I've just got life skills and street knowledge because I lived on the streets so many years and I lived on the outside of society and I can kind of see it, but I can't lead you. I can lead myself to a position where I'm okay and I'm living after my life and doing my things. But if you want me to lead you, you're missing the point. And then they sort of realize, well, hang on, yeah, that's all we're doing is we're saying, well, go on, Max, you do it. You get in the boxing ring and we'll hold your coat. It doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got to hold your own code and you got to get in the ring yourself and you got to stand up for yourself. Everybody has to do that. And it's a very simple thing to do. All you have to do is know yourself. It's not confrontational. It's just when someone comes along and tries to treat you like a slave, ask them why they think they have the right to own you. Why you believe you can exercise a right of ownership over me. It doesn't work that way. And if you're coming from government, well, hang on, that's not what we employ you to do. That's actually causing harm. So you're actually breaking the law. So who are you?
Mm-hmm.
You know? If police come along and annoy you, you're being a nuisance. Why did you pull me over? You're being a nuisance. Isn't it a law, being a nuisance? Look it up. It's a law. You just pulled me over and you put me on a breathalyzer when I'm on my way somewhere. You're being a nuisance, mate. You know, it's as simple as that.
It seems that one of the things that we're going to have to deal with as a collective is like emotional trauma, really. And, you know, Dr. Gabor Mate talks about that addiction is just unresolved trauma. That's what it is. And we have a whole world of people who are just like dying inside, you know, and who've bought into this illusion of a false narrative of even who they are. And they're so unhappy and they're on a lot of shitty drugs that they're trapped in. And I know you're someone who knows the power of plant medicine, psychedelics. You know, you've spoken up a lot about the power of ayahuasca. And for me, I think it is the greatest healing tool that we have on this planet as a tool. It's not the answer to our problems. It's just a tool. And I think that if we, as a people, can fight for the ending of that of the prohibition that we see all across the world, who knows? I mean, maybe the power of the plant could expedite this process in a way where people can awaken once it becomes legal, and maybe people will look at it for the tool that it is, as opposed to some, you know, drug that you're just going to get high kind of thing. Could we see some sort of expedited jump in the growth of you know, of our evolution?
Well, we could. You know, you touched on a couple of things there, like addiction is unresolved trauma. And again, this comes back to, you know, people's addiction to mobile phones, dopamine, the instant dopamine that they get when they click on an icon on a mobile phone and stuff. Again, this is because of the trauma of the loss of attention, the loss of interaction with their parents, which causes that need. You know, which is a very, very good example of it. And as far as ayahuasca and things go, I mean, ayahuasca is a hugely beneficial medicine. Some people can abuse it. There has been this ayahuasca culture, this ayahuasca rock star culture that's kind of developed.
Yeah.
And I like to make the differentiation as well between entheogens and psychedelics. I don't agree with the use of psychedelics. I don't agree with things like LSD. I mean, there's a huge CIA program to push this, Timothy Leary, this whole thing. I think part of the reason for that was to blur the line between psychedelics and entheogens. Ayahuasca, the reason this has even come to prominence now, the reason the shaman have brought this out of the jungle and given it to the people is because the shaman realized we're destroying the world. And if people don't take a crash course in reality, then we're going to continue to destroy the world. Mm-hmm. I know people that have taken ayahuasca and have had life-changing experiences, gone home and changed their entire life, changed their business practices, changed the way they deal with people. But again, I know people that simply abuse it. And it's become kind of a semi-drug culture. There's a lot of it that goes around the United States, people doing big ceremonies of ayahuasca. They have disco music playing, lights, all sorts of stuff.
Sure.
This is not an ayahuasca ceremony. This is a drug culture. And so that's being promoted as well.
Right. And again, there's light and dark in everything.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't drink ayahuasca regularly. I haven't drank ayahuasca for probably 3.5 years now.
Right.
I've got to a point where I've learned all that I need to know. It showed me what I needed to know. It showed me the connection that I have to this earth. It was quite an amazing experience. It's not for everybody. And again, opposed to things such as DMT as well. I mean, DMT, I don't agree with. I think it doesn't teach you anything. I mean, maybe some people say it does, but to me, it's almost like drug abuse, just isolating this compound and just doing this for this experience. I mean, what for? You know, you live in this world. Why not participate in this world? You know, what I got from my ayahuasca journeys was a real connection to this world and a real healing of personal issues that I'd had in my own life from childhood issues and stuff. Ayahuasca will peel away the layers of your personality like an onion, and it will show you the parts of yourself you don't want to face, and it can help you heal those things. And it can help people in physical healing as well. I know people that have had arthritis cured by drinking ayahuasca. So, they've just had pain in their hands for 10, 15 years. And after ceremony, no more pain in their hands because that was their intention. That was their wish. And the medicine healed it for them. It won't happen to everybody, but, everybody has a different experience. So I think there's been a real effort to blur the line between jungle medicines and Western psychedelics and the psychedelic culture and the CIA drug culture and that whole thing. I think this was all a construct. It was all damaging. I can't see any benefit in taking things like LSD at all. Some people might, I don't know, some people might argue with me, but that's my perspective anyway.
Yeah.
To me, it's just man-made substance, and it won't teach you anything. There's no spirit in there. With ayahuasca, you've got the spirit of the carpe vine, which is a spirit. It's there. And people will have these experiences, and many people will have the same experience and see the same visions because it literally opens up a doorway into the spirit realm where you can communicate with ancestors and all sorts of things. And this is very different to taking a psychedelic substance. So there's been a real effort to blur that line, I think.
Well, you can see it with cannabis, and cannabis obviously isn't I wouldn't consider it a psychedelic to the level of like psilocybin or ayahuasca or things like that, but I do believe it's obviously a healer of our minds, our bodies, and our spirits, and especially the body. You can see it right now how it's affecting pharmaceutical sales, and you can see who's behind the anti-cannabis movement, the alcohol and the pharmaceutical world. So and I've seen it in my own life, I've had family members who've with cannabis pretty much stopped using all of their prescription drugs, because it's healing their body. It's helping heal their body. And of course, there's always signs of abuse, right? There's always the guy who kind of fucks it up and abuses it and gives it a bad name and things like that. And I think it's that much more important if you want to end the prohibition of cannabis or any plant medicine, then use it responsibly. Like, show the world what it looks like, that you can be a fully functional, responsible human being and partake in with these plants.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, cannabis is mankind's companion plant. It always has been. We've got an endocannabinoid system in our body. We don't have an endocrine system for any other plant in our body. Every animal with a spine has an endocannabinoid system in their body, and cannabis is an incredibly healing plant, and it's our companion plant. I mean, it's not for everybody, of course. And it's always, they blur the line. Like you say, there'll be the one person who fucks it up. Well, very often you'll find there'll be someone who committed a crime or whatever, or someone who is a manic depressant. And they'll say, well, cannabis causes bipolar, it causes schizophrenia. No, what you find is that people who have bipolar or are manic depressants or have schizophrenia are more likely to use cannabis because it heals those conditions and it makes them be able to deal with those conditions. So they're more prone to be drawn towards something like cannabis. It isn't that cannabis causes the problem. They're prone to the problem anyway, which is why they've been drawn to cannabis.
Right.
It's a very healing plant. I mean, even if you look at the Bible, there's an oil that they used. I can't remember the name of it. Cannabis or something. It was the oil that they used in the to anoint people in the Bible. The sacred oil they used to. It's cannabis oil. It's cannabis oil. Cannabis was used in the Bible. Jesus healed people with cannabis. If you believe in Jesus. Some people say, no, don't stop supporting this or whatever. No, all Christians, whatever. I don't want to get into the argument about religion, whatever.
Totally get it.
If you look at it, you find this plant has been used for centuries. And when they outlawed this plant, everybody started getting sick. All these exotic diseases, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis. I've cured multiple sclerosis with cannabis oil. A guy with multiple sclerosis in Croatia, he uses a gram of cannabis oil a day, and the only symptoms of his multiple sclerosis that he has now is a little bit of numbness in his fingertips. He can actually hold a driver's license and drive a car, and a little bit of numbness in his fingertips, and that's it from cannabis oil. I've seen it cure so many cancers. I've seen it cure autism. I've seen it cure lymphoma. I've seen it cure Lyme's disease. It's an incredibly healing plant. Smoking it, sure, might not be for everybody, but then it can be. I mean, it can really open up to like almost cosmic downloads, if you will,
Yep.
whatever you want to call them. It can really open up this portal. Or people can just use it as a crutch, so they don't have to deal with their lives. Anything can be abused, anything can be misused, but all these things that are there for us. And as far as cannabis goes, it's killed nobody in its over 10,000 years of recorded use. Half of Cairo is built out of cannabis. You can build anything you want out of it. The best quality clothing, the best quality building materials. We don't need to be trashing the world. We can do everything that we're doing. All of our building products, timber, whatever, we can get it all from cannabis. Timber, clothing, food, all of it comes from cannabis. Medicines. The outlawing of this plant is a crime against humanity. And any politician, that should be a good litmus test. If a politician, you think a politician is a worthwhile person that has humanity's best interests at heart, if they're supporting the progression of cannabis,
They have
they're
to.
not. They're
Yeah.
arsehole, they're brainwashed fool. Either that or they're too stupid to hold the position that they're holding, and they need to be removed from office because
Yeah.
the outlawing of this plant is a crime against humanity, pure and simple.
Beautiful. Max, with this will be the last. I want you to end with this. There's a lot of people out there who are struggling, who do feel like there's blackness in their future. I mean, who are even maybe contemplating not wanting to be on this planet anymore. There's a lot of people out there that are struggling, and the statistics prove that. And if any of them are listening to this, can you speak to them? What would you share with them? And you can just end with that.
Look, it's about the ride, it's about the journey, no stake in the outcome. I had a terribly abusive childhood. I lived in a storm drain when I was 12. I've lived in homeless shelters. I've lived in the most horrendous situations, but no stake in the outcome. It's about the journey. It's about what you do with the information. We're at a beautiful time. We are really at a huge turning point in human history, a really, really important time in human history. And we all came here for a reason. So don't let the system bring you down. Don't let it get to you. I know things are hard. I know things can be very, very difficult. And I know because I've been there, I've done it myself. I think that's a lot of the reason why I'm able to talk to people on the radio shows in a way they can understand, because I've been in these situations. I know what it's like to be an abused child. I know what it's like to be homeless. I know what it's like to have no money. I know what it's like to be starving. I know what it's like to be an outcast. I know what it's like to not fit in. So it's all about the journey. It's all about how you process that information and the path that you're on. Don't exit early, because there's a reason for you to be here, and there's something that is great that's going to happen at some stage. Trust me on this. There's going to be some reason why you are here. You may not find out what that is until you're right on your deathbed. It might be the last moment of your life, and you'll have that epiphany that made it all worthwhile. But don't take the easy way out. Just learn to stand up for yourselves. And I really believe that if you can build bridges with the people around you by always operating in your moral compass, always staying true to yourself and giving to the people around you, being a respectful person, treating people in lakesh, you will change the world. I've got family all around the world simply because I live my life in a state of giving and caring, and I treat everybody as myself. And it works. It really works. It's worked for me. And when you can change the world by changing your attitude. Everything that ever went wrong in my life was because of my attitude. And that may be a really, really hard thing to face, but very often we're our own worst enemy, and we just have to realize that. And it's all a result of programming. Don't blame yourself for it. Like I said, we've had so much stuff stolen from us. We're looking for stuff we don't even know what it is because we don't know it's been stolen. And everybody's in that position. So don't be too hard on yourself. There's a way through it. No stake in the outcome. It's all about the journey. Just participate in that journey and always know who you are and believe in yourself.
I said at the beginning of the show that whenever I listen to your show on the Crow House, it's like going to church for me. And I think people maybe get a feel of what I'm talking about. And I really do hope that anyone who resonates, who's resonating with Max on this in terms of just those of you out there that are really, really struggling, play this over again, man. Play that part that Max just said, because there is light at the end of the tunnel, and just keep going. We promise it's going to get better. So, Max, thank you so much for joining me. I mean, I know I don't mean this you're not one that needs a bunch of flattery, but you're really one of those guys that I really look up to. I want to be like you when I grow up, man. So I appreciate it. I want to be my version of that. So thank you for, you represent your generation in such a fantastic way, and you are always acting, and at least your words. I don't know you personally, but your words are always so integritous and so balanced, and you have the big picture always in mind, and I think so many people appreciate that. So thank you, my friend.
Thank you, brother. Very, very much appreciated. It was a beautiful intro and a lovely outro as well. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.